What is this chapter title? Hi, Hi, I'm Maloney. Thank you. Thank you for buying this book for me. And thank you for these commissions. This is ridiculous series. This is chapter 5 of Searching for Dragons. I'm just going to whip the book around like this. In which there is a misunderstanding and Mendenbar does some plumbing. Okay. It just turns into a home improvement fanfiction. Don't run with that. Or, no, run with that. Do that. Don't do that weird crossover. I'm disturbed now. Okay. The awkward lump of magic was right where Mendenbar had left it. He studied it for a moment and then drew his sword. Oh, that's what he was getting his sword for. I thought he was getting his sword like, I'm going to go on an adventure. I need my sword with me. Your Majesty, said Willem from the doorway. What are you doing? Cleaning up after our visitor. Mendenbar replied, Do be quiet for a minute, Willem. I need to concentrate. But Mendenbar shot an irritated look at Willem. The castle steward broke off and closed his mouth into a thin, disapproving line. Mendenbar waited half a moment longer to make sure the elf was not going to say anything else, then turned back to the lump. Raising the sword, he reached over the loop of enchanted forest magic and stuck the point into the center of its mass. A surge of power ran through the sword as if it sucked up the wizard's leftovers and sent them to reinforce the invisible network of enchanted forest magic. The surge was stronger than Mendenbar had expected, and he frowned as he lifted the sword away from the now empty space and put it back in its sheath. Perhaps it hadn't been extra unused magic after all. Perhaps Seminar had deliberately left a spell behind. It was too late to test it now, though. The sword was thorough. Whatever the lump had been, it was now gone for good. Seminar sucks. Your Majesty. I just realized Seminar sounds really close to Seminar. I'm just going to call him Seminar for the rest of it. I'm not. Willen's voice sounded much more tentative than it had a moment before. Mendenbar almost smiled, but Willen was sure to get upset if he thought he was being laughed at. Mendenbar kept his face stiff and took a little longer than necessary to undo the loop he had left to guard the wizard's magic. When he was positive that his expression was normal, he turned. Yes, Willen? What was that all about? Has my lord the head wizard gone? Why are you wearing your sword? What? One thing at a time, Mendenbar interrupted gently. Seminar has gone, yes. He cast a vanishing spell, and a very good one, too. No smoke, no whirling dust, just poof, and he was gone. Unfortunately, he wasn't as tidy with the end of his spell, and some of it got left behind, or at least that's what I thought until I got rid of it a minute ago. I see, Lynn said in a tone that meant he didn't. And that's why you have your sword? Partly. Mendenbar looked at the empty patch of floor where the wizard had been, then shook his head. Whatever Zenmar might have been up to, it would have to wait. I have to pay a visit to the King of the Dragons. Willen's face went completely blank. You what? Going to the Mountains of Mourning to see the King of the Dragons, Mendenbar repeated, and I'm certainly not going without a sword. There are lots of dangerous creatures in those mountains, and some of them wouldn't care that I'm the king of the enchanted forest, even if they bothered to stop for an introduction before they attacked. But you can't just leave, Your Majesty, Willen said. A formal embassy to the King of the Dragons will take weeks to arrange. You'll want a full escort, and I don't think there's time, Mendenbar broke in, before Willen could get too involved in planning. Something's come up, and it needs to be dealt with now, so I'm going today. In another minute, and you're in charge of the castle until I get back. In a sudden inspiration, Mendenbar pulled the key to the castle out of his pocket and handed it ceremoniously to Willen. I am deeply honored by your Majesty's confidence, Willen said, but are you sure this is necessary? Yes, Mendenbar said. Oh, and don't let any wizards in while I'm gone. Something funny is going on, and I don't want any of them inside the castle until I figure out what, especially if I'm not here. But what should I tell them if they ask for you? I don't care as long as you don't let them in, Mendenbar replied. Is that all? Then I'm going. He took a hold of a strand of magic and pulled. When the misty whiteness cleared away, he was standing among the trees of the enchanted forest just outside the castle. With a bit more care, he chose another magic thread and pulled again, harder. I'm sorry, this is like the coolest thing. This is so rad. I love it. This time he appeared at the very edge of the forest, where the Mountains of Mourning began. 2 paces in front of him, the vibrant green moss stopped as if it had been sliced away, and the dry gray rock began. He checked to make sure this was the right place. Morwin's directions had been very specific, and then, reluctantly, stepped over the boundary. Mendenbar had not left the enchanted forest for over 3 years, not since he had become king, and he had forgotten how very barren everything felt outside. He could still sense the free-floating network of magic behind him, but where he stood the air was empty. Thin grass and scrubby bushes grew in patches wherever dirt had accumulated, in low spots and cracks and corners. Ahead, the mountains rose high and sharp and dead. Many magical creatures lived here, but the Mountains of Mourning had no magic of their own. Mendenbar could feel the emptiness where the magic should have been, and he shivered in spite of himself. I also like the idea that the magic actually affects the not the wildlife, like the greenery, like the plants and the trees that are there, because there's much less outside. At least I don't have to worry about finding Kazul, he told himself. As long as I don't get my directions mixed up, I should be able to walk straight to his cave. He smiled suddenly. and it will still be there when I get to it. And it will still be there when I get to it. That was worth something. He still had some of the magic of the enchanted force along with him in the form of a sword. Even through the sheath, Minibar could feel the reassuring pulse of power. Well, there's no sense in putting it off. He shrugged, took a last look back at his forest, and started walking. Once he got used to the dry, dead, magicless feel of the mountains, Minibar actually enjoyed the walk. Much as he loved the enchanted forest, he had to admit that it was nice to see so much sky. Since dragons liked high places, the walk was mostly uphill, but that was fun too. With no trees to block a view, Minibar could see for miles, and the higher he got, the more he could see. The hills in the enchanted forest tended to be either low, rolling bumps that you could hardly notice, or steep mounds that were usually home to something dangerous or magical, or both. Most of the latter were made of something strange too, jasper, or polished coal, or solid silver. There was even one made of glass somewhere along the southern edge of the forest. Some king had built it in order to get rid of his daughter. King's daughter. Princess! Minibar's good mood vanished. He'd forgotten about Kazul's princess. Oh, you will change your tune, Sonny. Did I just call him Sonny? I am older than him. He's only 20. He's Sonny to me. I get to say that now. And I'll have to be particularly polite to her, no matter how irritating she is, he reminded himself gloomily. Ugh. If she had as much influence as Zemanar hinted, she could make things very difficult if she took a dislike to him. He wondered why Kazul had kept her. The king of the dragons didn't normally bother with a princess, or at least, Minibar had never before heard of one who did. He came around a curve and saw the mouth of a cave in front of him. There was a wide, flat, sandy space in front of the cave, big enough for several dragons to land at the same time, if they were careful about it. The mountain rose straight up behind the cave mouth. Set in the stone over the center of the opening was an outline of a spiky black crown. As Minibar drew near, he saw a tarnished brass handle sticking out of a small hole beside the cave. The handle was level with his waist, and next to it was a sign that read, "Welcome to the Cave of the Dragon King. Pull handle to ring bell." On the line below, someone had added in neat letters printed in bright red paint, "Absolutely no wizards, salespeople, or rescuers. This means you." Oh, that is Cimmerian through and through. Minibar stared at the sign for a minute and began to smile. No wonder Zemanar didn't like Kazul's princess. Well, he wasn't a wizard, he wasn't selling anything, and he certainly didn't want to rescue anybody. He gave the handle a pull. Somewhere inside the cave, a bell rang. "Well, it's about time," said a woman's voice. Minibar's heart sank. "Oh, you need to stop it right now." He heard footsteps coming toward the mouth of the cave, and the same voice continued. "I was hoping you would get here before I left. The sink is—" The speaker came out of the cave, took a look at Minibar, and broke off in mid-sentence. "Oh no, not another one," she said. Minibar stared at her in utter bafflement. This was a princess? She was like no princess he had ever seen, and he had seen dozens. Sorry, that's like the funniest sentence. That's like those people who are like, "Oh God, that's so funny." Oh God. I can't deal with that. He'd see dozens, so clearly he's an expert on princesses. He's full of shit. True, she had a very small gold crown pinned into her hair, and she was very pretty. Beautiful, in fact, but she was wearing a blue and white checked apron with large pockets. Minibar had never seen a princess in an apron before. Shocker. The dress under the apron was rust-colored and practical looking, and she had the sleeves rolled up above her elbows. He'd never seen a princess with her sleeves rolled up either. You've only seen dozens of them. There's thousands, possibly millions of. What is wrong with you? His jet black hair hung in plain braids almost to her knees, instead of making a cloud of curls around her face. Her eyes were black too, and she was as tall as Mendembar. "Well," she said in an exasperated tone, "are you going to stand there like a lump, or are you going to tell me what you want? Although I already think I know." Excuse me," Mendembar said. He pulled himself together and bowed uncertainly. I think there's been some sort of mistake. I'm looking for Kazul, the king of the dragons." "I'll bet you are," the young woman muttered. "Well, you can't have her. I handle my own knights and princes." I love you, Cimmerian. By the way, for the record, it took her 60 pages to show up in this book. "I beg your pardon," Mendembar said, blinking. He was beginning to think that the mistake was his. This young woman didn't look like a princess, except for the crown. She didn't act like a princess, and she didn't talk like a princess. But if she wasn't a princess, what was she doing here? "I handle my own knights," she repeated. "You see, I don't want to be rescued, and it would be silly for someone to get hurt fighting Kazul when I intend to stay here no matter what happens. Besides, Kazul has enough to do being king of the dragons without people interrupting her to fight for no reason." You really are Kazul's princess." What did Zemanar said her name was? Oh, yes. Cimmerian? "Yes, of course. Look, I haven't got time to argue about this. Not today. Could you please go away and come back in a week or so when things are a little more settled? Or I can direct you to a more cooperative princess if you'd rather not wait." Marchak has a very nice one just now, and he lives quite close by. No, I'm afraid not, Mendenbar said. He was beginning to think Willen had been right to say he should wait for a formal audience. You see, I didn't come to rescue you, or anybody. I'm the king of the Enchanted Forest, and I really did come to talk to Kazul, and it's urgent, so... Oh, drat, said Simrine. Are you sure it can't wait? Kazul isn't here right now. I'll wait for her, Mendenbar said with polite firmness. As I said, the matter is urgent. Simrine frowned suddenly. Did you say you were the king of the Enchanted Forest? Mendenbar nodded. My name is Mendenbar. Just why is it that you're so eager to see Kazul, Your Majesty? Simrine said suspiciously. I ran across a problem in the Enchanted Forest this morning, Mendenbar replied, choosing his words with care. A witch named Morwen advised me to talk to the King of the Dragons about it. Morwen sent you? Simrine looked surprised and then thoughtful. It must be all right then. Come in and sit down, and I'll see if I can explain. As you wish, Princess, Mendenbar said, bowing. Just call me Simrine, she said, leading Mendenbar into the cave. She bent to pick up a lantern from the floor inside the entrance and added, My official title now is Chief Cook and Librarian, so I've gotten out of the habit of being called Princess. Chief Cook and Librarian. I love it. Chief Cook and Librarian? Mendenbar said curiously. How did that happen? Kazul and I decided on it between us after she became King of the Dragons last year, Simrine said. You see, King of the Dragons doesn't usually have a princess, and we didn't want the other dragons grumbling about Kazul breaking with tradition. I was hoping it would discourage the knights a bit, too. Oh? Well, it doesn't sound particularly noble and knightly to say you rescued the Chief Cook and Librarian, does it? And it has cut down on the number of interruptions. I used to get 2 or 3 nights a day, and now there's only 1 a week. And the ones who do come are at least smart enough to figure out that I'm still a princess, even if the dragons call me the Chief Cook. Doesn't that make them harder to get rid of? Not at all. Smart ones listen when I argue with them. Stupid ones think I'm kidding. I had to offer to fight a couple of them myself before I could get them to go away. Mendenbar peered doubtfully at Simrine in the dim lantern light. She didn't look as if she were joking. You actually offered to fight a knight? 4 of them, Simrine said, nodding. And a prince. It was the only way to convince them. She looked at Mendenbar so uncertainly. I'm sorry if I behaved badly to you at first, but I really did think you were here to rescue me. It's the crown. She pointed to the circlet on his head. You wouldn't believe the trouble I've had with some of the princes. Being rude is the only way to get rid of them in a hurry, and sometimes even that doesn't work, especially if they're particularly stupid. I understand, Mendenbar said without thinking. They sound a lot like princesses, stubborn, witless, and... He stopped short in dismay. He'd forgotten, for a moment, that Simrine was a princess too. He hoped she wouldn't be insulted. Fortunately, Simrine didn't seem insulted at all. She nodded. Exactly. That's why I send the knights and princes on to rescue other princesses. They mostly deserve each other. Of course, I do try to make sure I send the nicest knights to the nicest princesses. They can't help it if they're silly. I like that. They can't help it. I also like that she's like, you know what, these people are, they deserve each other. Like, she doesn't, what am I trying to say? She doesn't convince them that they need to change. Like, she never did that with Alienor. She wasn't like, you need to stop being a princess. She's like, no, you should be one, and you're good at it. You should do it. Anyway, they had reached a side opening, and Simrine hesitated. Then she shrugged and went in. The kitchen's a mess today, she said over her shoulder. But even when it's messy, it's more comfortable for human-type people than the big caves where the dragons go to chat. I can make tea, too, if you'd like some. Before he could answer, Mendenbar emerged from the side tunnel into a large, well-lit cavern. An enormous black stove took up half of one wall, and the other walls were lined with tall wooden cupboards. A stone sink next to the door was filled to the brim with scummy gray water, and the shelf next to it was overflowing with dirty dishes. In the middle of the floor stood a large wooden table and 3 mismatched chairs. Tea sounds good, Mendenbar said, politely ignoring the dishes. Simrine scowled at the sink and began rummaging through the cupboards. Do you mind having your tea in a wine glass? I know it's a little strange, but I'm afraid all the cups are dirty. The sink has been plugged up for nearly a week, and I haven't been able to do the dishes. I don't mind, Mendenbar said, but you'll have to do something about that sink sooner or later, you know. I've tried, Simrine said in an irritated tone. Do you have any idea how hard it is to persuade a plumber to come look at a dragon's sink? I thought I'd finally found one, but he was supposed to get here yesterday morning, and he still hasn't shown up, so he's probably not coming. There aren't any books on plumbing in Kazul's library, or I'd have fixed it myself. I'm sorry, Mendenbar said. Maybe I can do something about it. Go ahead, Simrine replied. You can't make it worse than it is already. That didn't sound like much of a vote of confidence to Mendenbar, but it didn't matter. He went over to the sink and studied it for a moment, then backed up a pace and drew his sword. You sword? What are you going to do with the sword? His sword fights soap scum and clogged drains. Okay, I'm going to pick another video and keep reading.